Okay, good morning. Welcome everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the scheduling process for next school year. I know that it seems that that's far off, but it's really not. This is the time of year that we start really thinking about the next school year and signing up for classes. We can also address questions that you have about AP classes today, because I know that, the choice about whether to take an AP class or not, that, like kids are having to make those decisions right now. And so there's a lot of pressure with that. So we are totally open to talking about that also. Some of you have already started putting questions in the chat. As we're going today, please do put your questions in the chat. The questions that are in there, don't worry, we're going to address them once we really get started. But joining me today, I have Ms. Shoopman and Ms. Nguyen from the counseling office, and Ms. Pereira, who is our APED. It's been a while since you guys have been on the Zoom with the principal, so why don't you guys introduce yourself real quick? Nancy, why don't you start?
Okay, I was like, okay. Good morning, I'm Nancy Pereira. I'm the associate principal. I oversee scheduling and testing if you haven't met me yet. Welcome to our morning review of the presentation we had earlier this week. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have about schedules. So thank you for attending.
Okay, Ms. Shoopman.
Hi, I'm Jill Shoopman. I'm a counselor and I work with students whose last names are DU through LED.
And then Ms. Nguyen.
Hello, hi, welcome. This is Ms. Nguyen. I'm working with student last name from LEE to Nguyen and first name M. Again, this is a little bit confusing, but the last name Nguyen, the first half from A to Nguyen M. Yes, I have to remind myself. M is me, and the rest will belong to another counselor. Thank you.
I have the counselor alphas written down.
Yes.
Because I can never remember it. Okay, so like I said, we're gonna hopefully be answering all of your questions today. And I don't know if you guys were able to join the counselors in their presentation on Tuesday night. Hopefully you were, but even if you didn't, that's okay. So I'm just going to jump in, and I don't know, Jill, if you had a plan, if you wanted to share. I allowed you to share your screen.
Okay.
But let me answer the question about the bell schedule first, because there is no answer. So right at this moment, as of today at 9:06 on January 14th, we do not know what our bell schedule for next year is going to be. Assuming that we're not on distance learning. So there's always that assumption. If we are in distance learning, the schedule will probably be the same as this year. But fingers crossed, everybody is really, really hoping that come August, we are able to come back in person and have regular school. But everybody's got to do their part to make that happen. So please, make sure everybody in your home and all of your friends and family are doing their part. That said, we are, as a staff, are currently in a conversation about should we look at our bell schedule and change our bell schedule. Before we went on distance learning, before the pandemic started, we were actually already having a conversation as a staff about, do we want block schedule? What do we want to do? We've started having this conversation. I should know more in the next couple of weeks. And as soon as we have a decision, I will let all of you know. So just don't worry about that just yet. I know that that's a choice you have to make on the scheduling sheet, and like there's choices you have to make. Just do the best you can, and then we'll adjust as we needed. I know that didn't answer the question. I don't really have an answer to the question. The answer to the second question is easy. Yes, if you need 7 classes, then you have to have an early start because you need all 7 periods. So you actually don't have a start time because you have all the classes. All right. And Ms. Shoopman, how did you want to handle this?
So I went ahead and posted in the chat the presentation from Tuesday night so that you can save it afterwards. I'm also happy to do a screen share just in case there's any slide we want to reference. It'll be, up for us to see. And so this is the presentation. It was a very lengthy night because we combined 2 nights into one. So although it's exhausting, it's nice to be done versus trying to pull everyone back together. So the first part was scheduling, so 9th through 11th grade in terms of the classes for next year. And the second part was only for those who are considering AP. And so that was the AP information night. So it's been kind of a busy week. So that was Tuesday night. And again, you guys have access to this in your in the chat, the link. Wednesday, so yesterday, was AP Q&A with teachers. And so we posted a schedule of all the different AP classes and a Zoom link so students could go and ask their individual questions about that subject. And so far from the few teachers I heard, it was well attended, which is great. And so there's 2 more things happening after this Zoom. Well, same thing, 2 days. And so we are available during lunch today and tomorrow, we being the counselors. And so if students have questions, they have a link to drop in during their lunchtime today or tomorrow to ask any last minute questions, because their actual scheduling form is due tomorrow. And so everything you need that I can think of would already be embedded in this presentation. So this would be a good thing to save. And so I don't know if we just want to start down the list of the questions that are coming up in chat and answer them.
Sure.
All right. Someone want to read the first question? I remember it had to do with the one-on-one time.
Yeah, so hi, I noticed that students meet with the counselor. Their slot time is Tuesday, the 26th at 11:10. How can students make the meeting if their class is in session at the time? Thank you. And then the next question is the same, where they have class at the same time as their appointment.
Sure. So you can imagine with 1,500 or so students and 5 counselors, we have to meet with them during some class time. And so students have been given a 10-minute appointment slot. For freshmen, it's 5 minutes. And so during that time with us, their teacher understands that that's a mandatory event and knows to, be flexible with them with whatever they missed. And so teachers do know this schedule. Teachers are going to be aware. So what students need to do is they just need to do whatever it takes to remember that if they need to set an alarm on their phone or somehow put a sticky note on their computer, remember to log off a couple minutes before their appointment and join our Zoom session. Again, these are brief meetings. We'll have another student right after, so we have to keep it to the 5 or 10-minute time slot. 5 is for freshmen, incoming juniors, and so that would be an incoming sophomore, so current freshman. Incoming juniors and seniors are going to have 10-minute slots. And again, their teachers are going to be made well aware of this, and they're going to, be flexible for what they missed during that 5 to 10-minute period.
Yeah, I just want to add, like, if we were in regular in-person school, when we do these one-to-one meetings, we pull kids out of class. So it's the same idea. We've always pulled kids out of class, so this is normal. I know it's weird with Zoom, but they aren't going to miss the entire class period. They're just hopefully going to miss just 10 minutes or less.
Yeah. And it's actually nicer because now you're not walking from clear across campus all the way to our office and back. So our hope is that it'd be less time lost. And some of them walk very slow back to class. So hopefully they don't log back onto Zoom as slow as they walk. So yes, but great question.
So the next question is, yesterday my kid heard the AP Physics teacher said the AP Physics 2 may be canceled if there's not enough students enrolled. What is the minimum number of students needed for a class to open? My kid is in AP Physics 1 now and really hopes to take AP Physics 2 her senior year. And I can answer that. This is actually true for any singleton, what we call a singleton class, meaning there's just one period of that class. There's always a risk that the class is not going to run because there's not enough signups. According to our contract with the teachers union, the rule is 1/2 + 1. So 1/2 of the course max plus 1. So the course max for science is 32. So 1/2 + 1 is 17. Hopefully, I mean, we've definitely had that many kids sign up for it. With Physics 2 in particular, we try very hard to honor our AP classes, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that they're on the schedule. But if we only have 5 kids sign up for a class, we can't run a class. So that's always a risk. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that.
I mean, there also might be I just wanted to add that like we also do get limited sections that we can offer. So sometimes we have to pick and choose between different, like if there are two classes in that same scenario, for example, we might need to pick and choose which one would be more beneficial for our students at that point. So there is that weird situation.
Yeah, but when we are, I mean, basically, I guess we probably should go kind of like real quick, like how this all works. The first step of the scheduling process is we have all the kids sign up for classes, and then we know our course numbers, so that we have like, okay, this is how many kids want to take this class. Then we look at our staffing. That is the next thank you, Jill. That's the next step, is the staffing, to make sure that we have teachers that match up with what the kids want to take. And then we kind of refine it, like, so sometimes we have situations where, like, for example, we have one Chinese teacher. She can teach 5 periods of Chinese. It's not likely that we're going to have, each teacher, back up, each teacher teaches 5 sections of a class. So to hire a new teacher, we need 5 more sections. So to have more Chinese, I'm using that just as an example, classes above 5, we would need, probably like 5 more sections, which is really hard to get. So if we, for some reason, like the kids signing up needed 6, we would probably have to limit how many kids would be able to go into Chinese. And those are decisions that we have to make as a school. It's kind of a tricky process, but we do the best we can. Our goal always with scheduling is to honor what the kids need and what they want and what they select. It's, what we call a student-driven schedule, meaning that we put priority on student, like what the students had selected. Okay, so our next question, how many AP classes is the best amount to take? If you don't take any, will that hurt the chance to get into any school? Does the UC system really need AP to consider entrance? How many is needed?
I can answer that question. Yeah, there's no absolute answer for the AP amount. It really depends on student. We saw that some students take only 1 class and they are already stressed out. And I saw some students take 4 or even 5 classes and they still doing well and doing okay. So we strongly recommend you to review the AP slide. We have a lot of good information about the challenge of AP classes. So going to the second part of your question, will that hurt the chance of going to any school? Even though AP is not official requirement in any college entrance requirements, but nowadays college is so competitive. So taking AP course will increase your kids' chance of becoming more competitive, because if you look at the number and the statistic, the admission rate for college is going lower and lower. For example, the most popular UCLA, UC Berkeley, the admission rate is lower than 15, so going down to 14%. So it's very, very competitive, and taking AP course is the very good way to show the college that you're ready for the college rigor. So we strongly recommend, but we also want students to do good research to make sure if they're ready and how many classes should they take. The best person we want them to talk with their teacher, the teacher that teach the related subject. Then talking with parents, because parents know your kids' study habit and time management, and also they can always talk to us and we can give them some guidance. Anyone, Ms. Shoopman, want to add anything?
I think you did a good job. Exactly. You have to just look at the whole picture, because, can a student handle a single AP class? Absolutely. But are they going to be involved in any, new extracurricular activities next year, or, is there anything new on their plate that's going to not give them the same time in the evening to devote to their classes? So, that's the hard part sometimes for counselors. We each have kind of a piece of the puzzle that's missing for the other. The teacher knows their ability level in that particular subject. I might not, other than a grade on a paper. But the teacher doesn't necessarily know what they're doing after school, their stress level. So the parent has that piece. So like Ms. Nguyen was saying, I think we all have a little piece of the puzzle that helps us help students make those good choices. So the counselor is willing to offer our advice based on their transcript review. But as a parent, you know so much about what their evening entails and whether or not they handle stress. Do they procrastinate? You have that piece that we're maybe missing. So yeah, great.
You have anything to add, Ms. Pereira?
I mean, I just kind of want to reiterate just the importance of picking classes that they like. And just that's a college level class, and AP doesn't change any wording about that. And if the student is not passionate about that subject area, if they're just doing it to build their resume, or they're not going to do well in the class, and it's a lot to ask of them at that point. So I think it's just really honing in on what they really like. If they hate history, taking AP history does not really make sense. If they love history, then I think that makes sense, and if you don't like reading, then maybe taking that AP literature class isn't the class for you. But if you enjoy reading, and it's just really so unique by the individual student. So I think they just really need to find out what their interests are, and to what extent do they want to challenge themselves. I think that many of our students, all of them, are probably capable of doing it, but they are limited with time and other activities that they have to do. So all of that needs to be considered when making those choices.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Keep in mind that any AP class takes a tremendous amount of time. It just assume that they're going to be spending an hour and a half to 2 hours a night on an AP class. That might be a little bit high, but I mean, just kind of go with that assumption. If they don't like the subject area, then that's really like torturous time. So it should be a subject area that they enjoy learning about. So the question, is it possible that my kid finishes AP Physics 1 and 2 within 1 year? At Piedmont, that has been something we've done where we've allowed students to double block. We honestly are trying to move away from that. It's not what the College Board recommends. It is supposed to be 2 separate years, kind of like calculus A, B, C. So we always make these decisions based on the signups and like looking to see. We are allowing kids to sign up for both 1 and 2 at the same time though, right, Jill?
I'm sorry, I was reading a direct message in chat.
Are we allowing this year for kids to sign up for Physics 1 and 2 in the same year again this year?
Mr. Aberley prefers we not. He would
Okay.
prefer that we do a standalone one and spread it out over 2 years versus trying to teach both in a year.
I thought that we were moving towards that because like I said, that is what the College Board recommends. We are though going to offer AP Physics C next year. So that is a 3rd AP Physics class that we possibly can offer if we have the signups. This kind of goes with the next question. When will we know if there won't be an AP Physics 2 next year? We would honestly know that we're not going to be able to run that by, I would say, mid-March, early April. And that's what would happen is then the counselors, any kids that signed up for that, they would contact the kids and be like, okay, this class isn't going to be possible in our schedule next year, and what are the alternatives that you can take? So we definitely, like decisions like that doesn't happen over the summer. We know that in the spring.
Yeah. And that's why I put this screen up in May, and could possibly be earlier, but it's typically in May. Ms. Pereira will send out course request sheets so that students get one last review to make sure that it's accurate. So it wouldn't really be a time to make changes. It would be a time to look and make sure that there weren't any errors. So we hand enter their courses. So of course we could have made an error and a typo. And so during May, that's when, if a student hadn't already been notified that there was a change in their course request due to, class being canceled or overloaded or, just some sort of a change, that's when they would find out. They would get an email in May. But like Ms. Davis was saying, typically by then we've already been communicating with them in the counseling department to, to clean up and make those changes. But for sure in May, when they get their course request, they will know what we're planning. That's just a list of requests. That's not an actual schedule. And some things do happen in the summer where the schedule, the way that it's built, it just cannot accommodate every class that they've selected. So there's still a chance that they would be put in an alternate. But the vast majority of students end up in those requests that they're going to receive in May. And I don't know, Ms. Pereira, if you want to add it all to that.
No, I just wanted to add, you said alternate. That's always like a trigger word in my head.
Yeah.
Because what I find when I go into the schedule in the summer and I'm cleaning it up, many times the students haven't selected alternates, or they just put, or they come back and report later, well, I really didn't want that class and now I got it. Well, you put it on your schedule.
Yeah.
So just kind of, since you're more in contact with them than I am visibly these days, if you could just remind them to make sure that they really do want that as an alternate, because you may get what you ask for, and it will be nearly impossible to change it once school starts. So please just kind of remind them to be careful with their alternates and their courses, please.
And I have an example of what not to do. You wouldn't believe how many times students do this. They'll have a class that they want, so they'll list it over and over and over again. So if I don't get art, I want art. And if I don't get art, I want art. And they'll just list that same class. Well, if I can give you art, Ms. Pereira and I want to give you the classes that you have selected. And that is our goal. And so the only reason we wouldn't is if there's absolutely no way in your schedule to give you that class. And then if you just gave us that class for every single alternate choice, we now have nothing to work with, but just whatever doesn't have, an overage right now. So any class with space. So if you could take a quick look, have them show you, they got a confirmation email. So that might be another thing to share real quick. So they fill out a Google form online that's due by tomorrow. And then once they fill out that form, they get an email to whatever email address they put. So I can't say which one, it's whatever they chose to use in the form. They get a confirmation email. In that email, it lists the classes that they've selected, and it also has a link to edit. So if you notice they've done something like that, please have them click the link and edit by tomorrow, because those alternates are so important. And again, we hope they don't end up in their alternate, but in the event they do, we want it to be something that they're also passionate about, not just something Ms. Pereira and I had to put in the summer because they're, because they gave us no other choices.
Yeah, and I want to also, with the parents that are here or going to watch this later, the thing about alternates and not getting classes, it honestly depends on, what classes the kids are signing up for. Sophomores, and that's why the sophomore or the current freshmen to be sophomores, the reason their appointments are only 5 minutes, they are by far the easiest kids to schedule. They don't really have any electives. The sophomore year is like, they take chemistry, they take whatever next level of math they're in, they take world history, they take English 2, they take PE 2, and usually they take the second year of whatever world language they're in, and then that's their 6 classes. Like, there's not a lot of choice in the sophomore year, so they are super easy. When you get into the junior and senior year, especially with the senior year, most of the senior year is actually built of electives, because any sort of math or science they do in their senior year is probably actually technically considered an elective. The only non-elective classes that they take their senior year is their English and their government econ. Everything else technically is an elective. And so if they are a kid that, and this is a really great slide that Ms. Shoopman has up, if they are a kid that selected courses, especially some kids that they select courses and 5 of the classes they select are, again, what we call those singleton classes. When we build the schedule, we really try to avoid conflicts with that. And sometimes that is unavoidable because we have part-time teachers, we have certain classes that can only be taught at certain times, and it's sometimes unavoidable that there is a conflict. So that's why the alternate is important. So the thing about selecting the alternates, if they're a sophomore, honestly, it's probably not that important because they're going to get all of their classes. If they are selecting, mainstream classes that we have many, many sections of, they're going to get all their classes. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's really like if you have a kid that are selecting classes that there's only 1 or 2 sections of it offered usually, that's where those alternates are really, really important. Okay, so this next question looks like it's question specifically about the scheduling sheet. For the 7-class schedule, we have to select early class schedule, right? And then also elective 1, class 6, elective 2, class 7, right? I'm assuming that sounds like it's about the scheduling sheet.
Yes, I see Ms. Nguyen moving her hand.
I can answer that question because I communicate with the parent before, and I know that the student is the current sophomore. So because we want to be specific, so because your kid can become a sophomore, and there's so many required class, and you are right, because she need to have English, math, PE, work history, and I assume that she continue language. So and then she interested in 7-day period. So it means that the 6th and the 7th class gonna be elective. I'm not sure I'm answer is clear, but
Yeah, I think exactly. So they would select 7-period day. So yes, they would be on early start. They'd go all the way through the 7 classes. One thing, the nice part is each student, as long as they show up, they're going to get that one-on-one time with us. And so if they have questions about that when they're with us, just have them ask. But yes, we know that if they are asking for a 7-period day, that second elective would actually be one of the classes they have. Whereas if a student were, not wanting a 7-period day, that would be an alternate. And so we know that just based on the fact that they've asked for either 6 or 7 classes. But if they have any questions or something's confusing during that one-on-one time, or again, we have drop-in hours today and tomorrow at lunch. But I agree with Ms. Nguyen. It's something that if they check 7, we know that in addition to their language, there's another class that they're asking to take. So.
Okay, our next question on here is, what is the max AP score that will be considered? I'm assuming that's by colleges.
Do you want to? I can take it. So I'm assuming what they're asking is, in order to get college credit, what is the score that you need is what I'm thinking that you're asking. You might want to let me know if I'm misinterpreting that. So the AP is on a 1 to 5 scale. So 1 being the lowest score, 5 being the highest score. Many colleges will give college credit if they have a 3, 4, or 5. So 3 would be the minimum passing score. But there are colleges that might, or a certain major within a college that may expect the score be a 4 or 5. So the 3 is kind of the question mark. While I see many colleges do give credit for a 3, they don't necessarily. The other thing to look at is, in what way do they award credit? There might be, so for every campus, they can have an AP credit policy, and sometimes even within their major, they may or may not award credit in specific ways. So that's why we always, when we do AP night, we always say may earn college credit. We're kind of, on the fence. It may or may not work. And so it's something that if it's really important to you, you'd want to research in advance and find out for the campus or campuses they're considering, what is their policy? Will they award credit? In what way will it be awarded? Is it going to be, more general educational elective? Is it going to meet the prerequisites for their major? That's something you'd have to do research and find out. But again, what score is needed is defined by the college, and sometimes even major, 3, 4, or 5, or sometimes 4 or 5. And if I didn't understand the question, please feel free to ask again.
I just want to add in the chat, in the moment, I will paste the website from College Board talking about AP credit policies. So at the website, you can, easily check which course and what college, approve, what is the points for AP to get credit in college. And you can easily, you can easily filter by course or by college. Okay. I'm going to send right now. Okay. AP credit policies, and that's from College Board.
Thank you, Ms. Nguyen.
Okay, our next question, if my kid takes chemistry during grade 9 summer, can he take AP science in grade 10? No. We don't allow that. Sophomores are automatically going to go into chemistry. We don't allow them to take it over the summer and to jump and start AP science early. The reason for that, and actually, because there's a question later on about priority for seniors, AP chemistry especially is one of those courses, because it's a double block class. We actually can only offer 2 sections of it. And so it fills up with juniors and seniors. We don't have room for sophomores to be able to take AP chemistry ever. We just, as a rule, don't do that. All right, next question. Can you take like photography as an elective in any school year? Can this photography class or any extra AP class or psychology class count as an elective towards the G requirement? 1 year band counts towards F or G.
Yes, so one thing, yes, you can take photography in any year. You know, obviously, like we've talked about before, if it were in the 9th grade, there's a chance it might be filled by upperclassmen. But besides that, yes, you can. Sophomore year, another issue. Again, if you take the language, there's just not really enough room typically for students unless they choose a 7-period day. But in theory, you could take photography any year. In terms of classes that meet the G requirement, a lot of classes meet the G requirement. And so that's one of the slides within our presentation. So any of these classes can meet it, as well as classes that are, you know, above and beyond in math, above and beyond in science. And so, or another visual and performing arts, sometimes advanced. But one thing that's already built into our schedule, so students don't really have to worry about the G area because government and econ is their senior year class. It is required of every single senior, and it's above and beyond the minimum requirement for social science. So for college, they only require 2 years of social science. We require 3 as a district for graduation. So students don't really have to worry as long as they make sure they're maintaining C's or better about meeting that G area requirement, because again, Gov Econ are automatically going to meet that their senior year. But as you can see, there's so many different classes that can meet it. All of these listed here, plus advanced visual and performing arts. So not necessarily photography, it's usually advanced courses. And any years beyond 3 years of math, any years beyond 2 years of science, all of those can meet that requirement. So that's really not an area unless students consistently earn potentially Ds, where we're worried about them meeting the G requirement because of so many different areas being able to pull into that one spot.
And then the second part of this question, the 1 year band should count towards F or G. I would say probably F.
Yeah.
Do seniors have priority for AP science classes? Seniors have priority for all AP classes. If we are going to limit who is going into an AP class, seniors are always going to have the priority, no matter what. And that's not just for AP classes, that's for any class. Seniors always have the priority. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
I was just going to say, and that kind of goes back to this, that they absolutely have priority, but again, sometimes they are selecting classes that are offered only once or twice in the day, like we discussed before. So even though they, originally had priority and they had one of those slots, when we actually have to put it into a schedule, sometimes those conflicts are why they didn't end up in the class, even though they would have been prioritized over a younger student. Their schedule just doesn't accommodate certain classes that they've picked together.
Okay, so back to the AP class questions. As you mentioned, kids should not take, for example, AP history if that's not what the student is interested in, but what if they only take 2 AP classes they like? They should not take to just build a resume. Am I correct? I understand AP class will make the GPA higher. Does it matter taking second year better than taking in third year? Not sure what they mean by the second year or the third year.
Like junior and senior year.
That's what I was wondering, if they're, or like sophomore and junior year, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if the parent who asked this, if they want to unmute themselves and clear it up. I think, remember that when you're applying for college, it's not, they look at a lot more than just the AP classes. Yes, they look at how many AP classes you took, but they also look at your overall, high school resume, like what clubs did you do? Did you do sports? What other activities were you in? One thing that, always kind of gets lost in the shuffle because it's not considered an AP class, but Ms. Pereira and I've had many conversations about it. It's our biggest pet peeve. A lot of our kids stop at year 2 in a world language. They absolutely need to take year 3. It's awesome if they take year 4, but if you have a kid that wants to go to a competitive and get into a competitive university, they absolutely need to take year 3 of a world language. And that's not an AP class. So sometimes it's more than just AP. I don't know if you guys want to chime in with that.
I see Ms. Pereira thinking.
Yeah, I am. I'm like,
well, I see the eyes.
Yeah, I kind of have I'm having contact issues this morning, but anyway,
maybe
also too. And I'm thinking, but I feel bad for our students and parents, and even for us as the people messaging everything, because it is a lot of mixed messaging that is out there from the university systems, as far as like, oh, we want you to find your passion, but yet take hardest classes, and but don't overdo it. So it is all these messages, and that's why it's kind of like this juggling act, so to speak. So I understand, the confusion almost, or frustration maybe that could come out through this whole college messaging. But I think it's kind of, I guess you just really have to consider your whole child as far as what they do, like how many sports are they involved, or other activities outside of school? Are they working? What responsibilities do they have at home? And really, like, and what is their skill set? So if they're let's say they're, just as a random example, let's say they're getting a C in math analysis, is calculus really the best place to go for that student at that point? So there's just a lot of factors that need to be considered, and those are the conversations I think the counseling have with their students when they're meeting with them. But the piece to that is just kind of really just having an open mind, and really considering everything that needs to be considered when they are selecting that AP class. Because it is, I mean, just timeline wise, if they're getting, let's say, an hour and a half a night per class for an AP class, they don't have that much time in the evening for 4 AP classes, if that's all they're doing even. So I guess that's where our concern comes from. It's just kind of like matching everything up. I wish the universities would tell us their magic spell as to how they figure everything out, but they give us good indicators by, considering the whole student. I think classroom learning is very important, but so is, and I know this year it's been really challenging for kids with community service, and even if they had a job, but there are other ways to get involved in our community to build other skills that are not necessarily going to be built through an AP class. So I think those are just kind of more things to think about for your child in selecting these courses.
Okay. If a student has already taken the AP Chinese exam, can they not take the foreign language class?
We've never prohibited a student from taking the class because they took the exam. Ms. Pereira, unless you have a different opinion, I would never.
I don't think I understand the question.
Like they took the AP, they've already taken the AP Chinese.
But they still want to continue studying that language.
And now they take the class.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We would probably recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You totally can. I mean, I would say a benefit actually of not taking it and going into another language is then like that kind of like beefs up, that you're talking about beefing up that high school transcript. Now you've like shown interest in more than one language, because if they pass the AP Chinese,
they get credit.
Then obviously they show proficiency in that, and then you can like add in a third language, because assuming they are proficient in English. But that's a personal choice. But yes, they.
One thing that's a little strange that used to be the case, the AP exam, the colleges at least several years back said they were only giving 2 years of language credit for passing the AP exam for a language. That seems kind of disappointing, because obviously the AP exam is testing on much higher content than 2 years of a language. So that might be the only thing to consider, is maybe reaching out to the colleges that you're considering and finding out, in terms of the AP exam versus taking a 3rd year of a language, which one would be more advantageous for the student. So if they're not going to count that as 3 years, and that's something that they're really looking for is a 3rd year of a language, that would be my only reason of suggesting staying with the same language to get through that 3rd year. So that might be some research to do, but I know in the past when we would ask, they would just consider it fulfilled, the requirement, which is really only then 2 years of a class. So that would be a little research possibly to do if you're in that situation before deciding, do I do a 3rd year or maybe do I switch?
Okay, so this next question, on that slide, and you're showing right now, are there other reasons to not receive my requested course? Is there no way we can check ahead of time what the class times are to avoid conflicts, right? We don't know the class schedule at college. They have the class schedule time in the catalog ahead of time. No, that's the the work that Ms. Pereira does over the summer. I can see her smirk, like she's like twitching right now. It's a lot of work to build the master schedule. And that's the work that happens in June. We try very hard to avoid conflicts. And most 99% of our kids are going to get their classes just fine. So on this example on the slide, you know, where they have the AP statistics and AP European history and French 3, and there's conflict. So they can only choose 2 of the 3 classes that they wanted. That really sucks for that kid, but I'm gonna be honest, like we try to avoid this. So there might be 1 or 2 kids that fall into this. Please don't go in like worrying about this. We try very hard to avoid conflicts. And it takes a lot of time. But no, we don't know the class times ahead of time. The thing with colleges is they don't actually schedule for students. They schedule for professors. And so they schedule their times based on when professors want to teach the classes. And we schedule based on what students want to take, which is why it changes every year. So with the AP physics, again, we're doing what the College Board is recommending, and then also what our AP physics teacher is recommending. So, you know, that's okay.
And just a quick reminder that, you know, for certain applications, especially UC, there is a comment section. And so if you want to share information, like for, you know, this example that we have on the screen right now, if you tried to take a certain class, but it wasn't available because of conflict, and you want the colleges to understand that that was what prevented you from taking that class, that's where you can share that information. So, you know, if a student feels passionate that something would have been of benefit to take, but they just could not based on the schedule, then that would be something to share with the colleges so that when they make their decision, they have the whole picture. So unfortunately, CSU does not have a comment section, although, you know, typically they are less competitive, but the UC system does have a comment section.
So it's next question. It seems like there is a maximum number of AP grades that can be added to your GPA. What is the limit? I think it's is it 8 semesters? Am I right? Or 8?
8, yeah, 8 semesters.
So, you know how that there'll be a policy. This can be a little bit frustrating. And I guess even within Eastside, we do different things at different schools. So I guess I understand in that respect. But a lot of times the UC will have a policy and the CSU will have a policy. And then you start getting these outliers that will say, oh, but we're going to do it a little bit differently. So you do have Berkeley and LA, and we may have new UCs that have jumped on that say, yes, we're going to cap the GPA at 8 extra points. But we're also going to do a fully weighted GPA with as many points as a student has and consider that too. So in general, the UCs and CSUs look at a capped GPA with only 8 extra points. But there are some campuses that are saying, in addition to that, we also are going to look at a fully weighted GPA, which would be as many points as a student has earned. So that's kind of the challenge when we ever try and give, you know, generic answer to an entire system, is you start to have some of the colleges do things differently than the others. So it may be worthwhile for the campuses that your child's considering, especially if it's some private schools, because again, they can do whatever they'd like at their school. It would be nice to check their website so that you know the most up-to-date information, especially right now with COVID policies, you know, are changing. And so that would be a good thing to do. If we have any junior parents with us right now, in April, we're going to have a college information night. We do that annually, but this year obviously is going to be even more important because of so many changes. And so during that time, we'll walk you through any overall system changes that have happened. You know, I know a big question is, do I take the SAT or not? That we'd probably give you information about and guidance in advance. But, you know, if you're a junior parent, know that there's going to be a lot of support in spring to help prepare you for next year. But just always check colleges' websites as they can start to go, you know, a little bit rogue from the rest of their system.
Okay, if we need to fill in the AP calculation contract form, where do we find it? we don't have an AP contract, right?
No.
No.
No,
don't-
yeah.
Yeah, we don't have an AP contract.
I just kind of, can I go further on that?
Yeah.
I mean, we used to have an AP contract in the past, and the contract was really just outlining that you can't get a schedule change and you're committed for a year, and these are the expectations. That's true of all of our students. So that contract was kind of misleading in that there may be some hope that you would be able to get out of a class. The reason why you can't get out of a class is because we have now tailored a schedule based on students' demands for requests. And so all of those things we just described as to how we decide which classes are being offered, we have now made a choice to not offer other classes. So just kind of completely honest, we do not really offer very many classes that are not at full capacity. Like, they are pretty much full. It would not be wise of us to have classes that are not full. So that is why we can't do schedule changes, because there isn't a schedule is not built on changes. It is built on requests. And so then that contract doesn't exist, because this is the same policy for everybody school-wide.
Okay. What kind of school activities better help the college admission? Do activities like piano, karate, arts help? What level of those kind of activities will be considered?
That's a great question. Ms. Nguyen, do you want me to take that one, or do you want to?
I can take that one. Activities vary. College looking for students who want to become a good citizen, responsible, have some leadership skill, civic involvement. So anything that show those are going to help. Either it's art or drama, music, or karate, as you say. Anything that show a passion and responsible. And it can be flexible. We have students who does not have a lot of school activity, but they have a job. They are coach for YMCA, swimming team, something like that. Or even some students who are at home very, help out with the family. They are the tutor of their own, younger brother or sister. So any kind of activity that show responsible leadership and, commitment, also that's something that college looking for. So do not be just narrow into school activities, but anything from outside of school or church or club, or even, we saw students involved in the student council for the city of San Jose. So those things is very good to show your potential to be a good contributor to a college, because that is what they're looking for. They're looking for how you're going to contribute to their campus later.
I just also wanted to add something about, I feel strongly about this. I don't know if everyone agrees on the group, but just also sticking with this skill. I have seen many times, like a good example would be music. Like a student has been in music all through middle school, and they did it for a year for high school. This is clearly if their interests change. Obviously, that's a different conversation, but it is wise to kind of continue with things that you have already been building that skill, and that kind of goes along with the idea of taking that third year of language, right? Because you're just developing those skills further and further. So I just kind of wanted to add that. So like sometimes I've seen students like who've been doing dance for like 10 years. I'm like, I just quit because I'm just kind of wanting to do whatever, choir now. And great, that's great. You're doing something different, but it might be good to still stick that out if you haven't lost that desire to continue to do it, I guess, because sometimes kids do get burnt down on the same activities, but that's part of building that skill. Someone asked a question about the foreign language. It would be the same language. So you can't really, the idea again is to develop that communication skill for a language. So it would be 2 years required for the same language.
And actually it's misleading because we often say 2 years because our kids, our feeder schools don't offer world languages. So kids automatically start in level 1 usually. I mean, sometimes there's exceptions to that. The requirement is actually getting to level 2. So if a student actually started in high school at level 2, even though they have only 1 year of a world language on their transcript, they've actually met the requirement, because the requirement is completing level 2. Somebody made a comment, internships can look good for a student too. Yes, absolutely. If that's an opportunity that a student has, yes, that's absolutely. A question about math. If student takes math 1 in middle school, so they start math 2 in high school, yes, they will go into Math 2. Does the Math 1 class count towards high school credit? No, because it's taken in the 8th grade.
Just a quick note for any of you that have incoming freshmen, those events are coming up soon. So I believe it's January 27th is when we're presenting to students. And then February 2nd at 6:30 in the evening is when we're presenting to parents. So if anyone has some freshmen that'll be joining us, just keep in mind those events will be coming soon, and the advertisement should be coming from your middle school.
Yeah, so that actually is a great thing to close on because we're just about out of time. Ms. Shoopman, do you want to like mention upcoming events and just kind of go over the timelines again?
Absolutely. So let me see if I can find. So a lot of things have already happened. We've already had the SVCTE presentation. If you have any questions about that, you could email the counselor and we can help connect you to the presentation if it was missed. So again, Tuesday night, we had our scheduling and AP information night, which is what we've been talking about. And yesterday was those AP Q&A sessions with teacher, just doing our Zoom. The January 14th and 15th, so that's today and tomorrow during student lunch is when we have drop-in hours. You're also welcome to drop in. The only thing is we're trying to connect with as many students as possible during that time. So we want to keep it relatively brief, but we're available to students both today and tomorrow during their lunch on Zoom. They can drop in at any point. They don't have to be there right at 11:45, nor do they need to stay until 12:50. So help today to get those final questions answered because they're going to submit their Google form tomorrow. And by tomorrow, they have until the very end, 11:59, if they want to still submit that late. And so if a student has already submitted, just a quick reminder, they don't want to submit a second one. They actually want to edit. So that's where I had shown you earlier that once they submit, they get an email confirmation. Might have gone to their junk or spam, so have them check there. And that's going to be how they edit, because there's a unique link to them to edit their form. So again, if they've already submitted, please don't resubmit, edit instead. Please just help check it over before they submit tomorrow night. The deadline, so then after that, they're going to meet with their counselor one-on-one, and they have their specific appointment time. And then after that, we have a deadline to make schedule change requests by March 12th because of all those steps that we talked about earlier that are happening. And so again, first, if they have changes, they would tell us during their one-on-one. After that, they're going to have a Google form, and that's how they're going to be able to request to drop and add classes if they've made, if they have a change of heart after they meet with their counselor. And then again, just for those who are juniors, there's going to be a college information night coming up in April. So you'll get the support you need for preparing for next year.
Okay. Great. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Next week, we're actually going to kind of repeat this type of format again next week. And but it's not just going to be about this topic. It's going to be about all topics, kind of like a mid-year check-in. So any parents that have questions for me, I think Mr. Campbell is going to be joining me also. I think Ms. Pereira already has a prior engagement, so she got off the hook. But that's what's going to happen next week. One last question for seniors: if you take 6 classes and 4 of them are AP, but one of them is a TA or leadership, will that look weak on your resume? I don't think so.
Just a quick reminder, TA can only be taken as a 7th class. So in that particular situation, TA wouldn't have been one of the 6. Leadership might have been one of the 6 classes. I think leadership is a little bit different in the sense that it's showing, especially like Ms. Pereira was saying, if it's showing commitment after 4 years of leadership, that shows you've stuck with an activity. So I agree with Ms. Davis. I don't think so. I think they see the value in students being in a leadership program.
Yeah. Same with APED too, and sticking 4 years. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.